In this video, we're going to look at copying an array. How do we make a copy of an array? So what I've done is I've set the size for my arrays to be 10. I've created an array called myArray, and I've created another array, these are all ints by the way, called myCopy. Okay, so I have these two arrays that will hold 10 ints apiece. I'm doing what we've done in previous videos. Basically, I'm setting a random number from 0 to 9 using math.random times 10, changing it to an int, and storing that in myArray. And then I'm taking, after I do myArray, I say myCopy is equal to myArray. And at first glance, we think, well, that should make a perfect copy of myArray. So we're going to take the values in myArray and make a copy of it. So down here, I have 2 for each loops. This one's printing out the numbers in myArray. This one's printing out the numbers in myCopy. And when I run it, I get my random numbers from 0 to 9 in myArray. Probably shouldn't use a space there because that's the name of the variable. The numbers in myArray and the numbers in myCopy, and they match, and we think everything is good. But everything is not really good. So here is what we thought we did. I took one array and copied it to the other array using an equal sign, and we at first think, here's what we did. Here's our first array, and it had a bunch of stuff in it. We called it list 1. And here's the second array that has a copy of everything, and list 1 is in list 2. But that isn't really what happens. When I say list 2 is equal to list 1, remember that we said these variables we were using to hold these arrays actually point to a memory location where the object gets created. They are reference variables. Reference variables mean they point to a place in memory. And when I make a copy of list 1 called list 2, it makes a copy of the reference, and it points to that same location in memory. It doesn't actually duplicate the data. What we have now is we have two variables that both point to the same array in memory. So how do we prove that? Let's go back over here, and I am going to change myCopy sub 0. So the first element of my copy, I'm going to change it to 500. Okay, which should seem a little odd, right? So I'm going to change this element right here, should be set to 500 after I've made my copy, and the number in my array shouldn't be affected. But as you can see, 500, because both these variables now point to the same memory location, when I changed the first element of my copy, it also changed the first element in my array, because both of the references point to the same array in memory. We didn't really make a copy. So the question is, how do we actually make a copy? Okay, if we can't do this, well, what we have to do is we have to copy each element of the array into the corresponding element of the other array. So we can do that using a for loop. And here is the for loop that we're going to use. It's a for loop that's going to count through all the elements of my array using the index numbers, and it's going to take my array sub I and assign it to my copy sub I. So the first time through, take element 0 of my array and assign it to element 0 of my copy. Then element 1 assigned to element 1 of my copy, element 2 assigned to element 2, and so on and so forth, till it makes it all the way through the two arrays. Okay, then I'm going to change my copy, element 0 to 500. Now, because I did this, those two variables, instead of doing equals, no longer point to the same memory location. When I initially created them up here, they pointed to two different places. When I said my copy equals my array, it changed the reference of my copy to point to the same place. And now it will no longer do that. I'm just copying each element. And once I've copied each element, I can change one of the elements and it won't change in both of them. So let's run it. And we can see that I changed this element to 500. It did not change the elements in my array. So to make a copy of an array, you need to process it with a for loop and take each element from one array and assign it to each element of the other array. That is how you make a copy of an array.